We'll begin. Today our topic is how can we raise awareness in schools about sport values and the prevention of doping. Please give a big applause for Portugal, Italy, Spain, Norway and the Czech Republic.
So I want to welcome everyone to the first Erasmus Plus conference. I hereby call this meeting to order. My name is Yudsinia and I will be guiding us through our meeting today. I'm here to take us between the different parts of the meeting, which include the speakers list, the moderated caucus, the unmoderated caucus, and then the voting procedure. Our delegates have been working very hard preparing this topic, so I hope you enjoy the debate today. As you know, our topic today is raising awareness about the importance of sports values and the prevention of doping. In particular, we have three subtopics. Our first subtopic is the root causes of doping and its influence on youth. Our second one is how can schools and curricula better educate students on the harmful effects of doping? And number three, how can we involve the sports community in educating students about doping? At this time, I'm going to call roll. Please stand up and say present when your country is called. Czech Republic. Czech Republic is present. Italy. Italy is present. Norway. Norway is present. Portugal. Portugal is present. Spain. Spain is present. Now with 5 delegations present, we will begin with our opening speech. Each country will have 2 minutes to speak. Czech Republic, you are first.
People nowadays tend to realize that doping in sport is a common thing. They tend to realize that even they are the reason why athletes take these illegal substances, as they are demanding better performance from them constantly. Of course, there are many dangers in taking steroids. For example, they can disturb the production of hormones in your body, or you can damage your liver or kidneys, from oral steroids in particular. On the other hand, steroids have lots of uses in medicine. A wide variety of sickness can be treated with steroids, such as asthma or even cancer. They are also often used by athletes to prevent injuries, as they are prone to be injured. It is everyone's choice to take these illegal substances. If someone is even thinking about taking these steroids, then he should definitely know the possible consequences.
It's possible to take steroids and stay healthy if you have a genetic predisposition and if you will be responsible. However, it is still a question if this is fair as far as sports competitions are concerned. But who is definitely endangered and can have problems when taking these substances? Definitely young people, under 18 years old, people who have been doing some sports for only a short time and have no ambitions to become professionals. Also people whose health or physical condition isn't perfect can have big problems. Doping in the Czech Republic is not alarming, but people should raise mind of disadvantages which appear with doping. The best way to raise minds of people about doping isn't to scare them off, but to educate them about doping in early age. It's not hard to get steroids in the Czech Republic if you have the money, and if someone makes up his mind to do it, is to make sure he knows what he's doing. But still, we should keep stressing the principles of fair play and respect.
Doping and derived from the verb to dope. Doping, which is to acquire substances by athletes to increase or improve the sports performance. Sometimes many people have made use of different substances, for example, the Olympic Games of 668 BC with hallucinogenic mushrooms, the Aztec civilization with an extract from a kind of cactus, in 18th century with a mixture of stashinin and macerated coca. Only in the 50s were introduced methamphetamine, still used today. In 1886 this substance has caused the death of an athlete. This substance don't damage over time only the performance, but also the health of an athlete. The risk
The risks are numerous. Brain and heart damages for those who take stimulants, narcotics when we're used in the wrong way cause dependence and reduce skill. The steroids cause cancer, fibrosis and bleeding. All already dangerous are beta blockers, insulin and corticotropin. There are anti-doping laws. In Italy the first was in 2000. In the 70s a test was introduced for the positivity of the drugs. The one have led to the disqualification of athletes like Lance Armstrong, Ben Lawson in 1998 and Marian James in 2000. Thank you.
Thank you, Italy. One excellent thing that they mentioned was anti-doping legislature, and so we hope that throughout the debate we'll continue to talk about that. Now we have Norway.
The term doping is widely used in competitive sports like skiing, bicycling, handball, football, and many others. The term refers to the use of banned athletic performance enhancing drugs. These drugs are prohibited by most international sports organizations because they're seen on as unethical.
Drugs in sports are widely used. We can look centuries back and find different instances of doping in sports. For instance, the berserkers in Scandinavia used a drink called betoninus, which was supposed to increase the stamina and the physical power. They drank this even though they could risk insanity. Today there's a huge variety of different doping substances.
A question many ask themselves when it comes to doping is, how does it affect the human body and does it work? People take drugs to increase their performance in both sports and in their everyday. Some people even use it to get away from their personal problems. Even though people might feel better when they use drugs, they end up ruining their body both physically and mentally. Drugs are also highly addictive. There are many other side effects as well. If we start to teach kids in young ages about addiction and how it can affect their lives, that may make them not wanting to take drugs later in life.
The biggest problem teenagers face today is body shaming. Society tells teenagers and young adults that having the perfect body will make them look attractive. For some people, taking drugs is the only way to achieve their dream body. They take drugs even though they know all of the side effects. We stop the body shaming both online and in real life, we can manage to completely get rid of it. And drugs might not be the solution for everyone anymore. Doping will always be around, no matter what we do. But focusing on the cons instead of the pros and increasing the attention around the subject, fewer and fewer people would want to try drugs. If we grab everyone's attention, the numbers of users will lessen. Maybe by learning to love our strengths and weaknesses, we could not feel the need to change our lifestyle and our body. Thank you.
Norway, you brought up two excellent points about body shaming and how addiction should be taught in schools. Great job. Now we will hear from Portugal.
Doping is now a global problem that follows international sporting events worldwide. International sports federations led by the International Olympic Committee have for the past half century attempted to stop the spread of this problem, with little effect. It was expected that with educational programs, testing and supportive medical treatment, this substance abusing behavior would decrease. Unfortunately, this was not the case. In fact, new, more powerful and undetectable doping techniques and substances are now abused by professional athletes, while sophisticated networks of distribution have developed. Professional athletes are often the role models of adolescents and young adult population, who often mimic their behaviors, including the abuse of drugs. The creed of the Olympic state said that The important thing in games is not winning, but taking part. The essential thing is not conquering, but fighting well.
During the 20th century, commercialism has characterized the sports world, and sporting has gradually evolved from an activity achievement of golden medals has become highly valued, and the need for success has put high pressures on athletes. The wording "second is nothing, first is everything" describe this current status. Thinking in many cases, even increased incidents of drug abuse, and in numerous cases, doping was related to death of athletes. Drug use is a serious concern, not only for the concepts of integrity and fair play in competitive sports, but because of the health threats to the athletes. Certainly, drugs testing programs should continue, with increasing numbers of athletes being tested and increasing penalties for detection, since these are most likely means of deterrence. Drug education programs must also continue in a further attempt to curtail the use of illegal doping, empowering the young athlete with the information and skills to make responsible decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Portugal. I think you guys mentioned great ideas about the influence professional athletes have on youth and how they can take a role in helping educate the youth. Okay, at this point we will now have Spain.
Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, I think we can all agree that doping is harmful. But then, why do so many people keep falling into it?
We cannot expect young people to take doping seriously if our governments themselves don't. The delegation of Spain believes that if the governments don't solve the issue, then we, the students, must. Despite efforts taken by Spain to reduce doping, the image that it gives turns out to be different. In March 2016, the time given to Spain to comply with WADA rules against doping expired. Shortly after, the pieces of evidence that could prove the guiltiness of some sportsmen involved in the Porto case were found to be unexamined for 10 years. So if the message that is conveyed to youth is that an evil and harmful act such as doping goes unpunished by institutions, why should they consider themselves exempt from this? As a result, doping is spread among youth without apparent consequence. No farther away from the truth, it has the worst one: health and ethical consequences. But minors do not think of this, just of winning. Moreover, this is a subject which is never taught in schools.
To solve this issue of doping, we propose the two following measures. First, have schools hold at least once a year a conference for all grades by an athlete who has experienced doping in their lives. Since one of the pillars of doping is the belief that this behavior goes unnoticed and thus unpunished, this will start to make them realize the bad consequences this has and will start to make them realize that this is ethically wrong. And secondly, show just how harmful doping can be for the body. Make students realize that what may in the beginning seem like a fun and enjoyable experience that provides them with the joy of being victorious in sports has really bad consequences in the long term, like addiction or even depression. And all of this could be included in the curriculum so students get to see these consequences. If we don't want doping to triumph over us, then we must not stand still. We shall take action. Thank you.
Thank you, Spain. You mentioned a really important point that students must take action in order to end the uses of doping. So at this point, we're going to move into our first moderated caucus. Our topic will be the root causes of doping. So I suggest you continue the conversation that we've just had. So we will have 4 minutes to discuss this topic. Any delegation wishing to speak, please raise your placard, okay? Any delegations wishing to speak? Norway.
We have a question for Spain. How do you think you're going to get professional athletes that have been into doping to go around in the schools and talk about it to students?
Well, of course, we think that these conferences should be in the best interest of all, not just for the students because of the obvious consequences of them getting to see these consequences, but also for these people, not only because it's a good thing socially to help, but also because it could help them improve their image
Professional athletes have been throughout history been used to having social pressure, and thus they recruited doping. So these athletes themselves have the pressure, and they, for their own good and for the good of the children that are prompt to go into the same business if they grow up to be athletes, they would like to do it for the social good of everyone and try to give this conference for no one to fall into this error once again in history.
Thank you. Other delegations wishing to speak? Portugal.
We think that it's root problem with the money and the following success, and maybe with higher penalties and with more and better drug tests that we could decrease the problem. The delegation of Portugal thinks that the perfect balance of punishment and education would lower the numbers of doping.
And we also had a question for Norway. You said that people use steroids and doping to get away from their personal problems. So, what are those personal problems, and how will you try to solve them?
Okay, Norway, you have the floor.
By personal problems, we meant, for example, starvation and hunger and being homeless and being so depressed that you have nowhere else to go, and then you take drugs to get away from the real world and to sort of make your own imagination or world by taking drugs.
Thank you. Other delegations wishing to speak? Spain.
As it has been just mentioned, doping gets to have consequences in our personal lives, and in that aspect we have a question for the Czech Republic that talks about how common and how easy it can be to get doping substances.
Would you agree with this philosophy of assuming doping in sports is usual, or do you think that sports should have no other interference?
Unfortunately, nowadays this is how just sport works. Especially on a professional level, the athletes just take doping because they want to be the best at the sport they do, they want to make money, but we definitely are not supporting the fact that so many professional athletes take drugs. It shouldn't be like this, but until we find an efficient way to fight doping, it will remain a common thing.
Okay, thank you. Other delegations wishing to speak? Norway.
We have a question for the Czech Republic. You said that people that were young, over 18 years old, that did not have ambitions to become professional athletes, could take doping if they wanted to. But when doping can ruin your life if you get addicted, why should they have the freedom to take doping just as they want, as long as they know the risks?
We believe that it's not exactly true that doping has to ruin your life. We believe that if you are over 18 years old, you may be mature enough, responsible enough to take doping. Of course, you may not, but we mean it as if you are under 18 years old, then under no circumstances you should take doping or drugs or anything like these substances.
Thank you, Czech Republic. At this time, our time for this topic has elapsed. We're going to move on to the second subtopic, which is how can schools and curricula better educate students about the harmful effects of doping. So if you want to speak on this topic, again, raise your placards. Italy.
Schools should introduce in the curriculum regular lesson with expert people, doctor, biologists, chemists, athletes, physical education teacher to give the correct rules of the good behavior from the primary school.
Okay, thank you, Italy. Other delegations wishing to speak? Portugal?
I have a question for delegation of Czech Republic. Years for money and for success. Who can the education stop this?
So we agree. This is so low. We agreed that doping provides money to the victorious people who manage to dope and get away with it. But we think that apart from economical benefit that these people can get, is more important the health and ethical consequences that they have. So we would need to teach children not to dope anymore, because not of the economical benefits it can have, but because of the ethical and the health consequences it can prove to have. Because in the end, if you have a life with money but no health at all, that's no life.
Of course, what he just mentioned makes sense, but to make this change socially in our society, we believe that the best option is to educate the new generations so their values would shift towards the sportsmanship rather than the money. So the solution is in education.
Okay, great. I think we're all talking about how education is the key here, and I want us to think about how, right? So in what classes can these things be taught, and in what ways? So other delegations wishing to speak. Norway.
We know from Norway, we believe that if we teach kids in ethics classes about how doping is ethically wrong and how it's cheating in sports, and how winning is not the most important in your life. There's many more important things. And also, we think that if schools in biology classes talk about the negative aspects biologically about doping, then the children may not want to try doping because of all the side effects. And if in ethics classes or something, as we said earlier, if athletes come to visit schools and talk about these problems with doping in sports, then children may listen instead of a teacher talking that has no experience on the subject.
Excellent, thank you. Other delegations wishing to speak? Spain.
So we've had different opinions on where this measure should be taken. Like Italy mentioned something about doctors. Now we have had Norway's opinion. So we'd like to ask in the same aspect a question to Portugal.
Would you teach from an ethical or a biological standpoint, in what school classes, what would you teach?
Portugal.
So we think we need to dedicate more time to this problem by joining unities in physical education classes. That is the way to improve better education and alert students about doping dangerous effects. Precise sports lessons against doping, conference by experienced athletes could be a great help to young people to understand the bad consequences of doping.
Thank you, Portugal. Unfortunately, our time has elapsed, but we can continue to talk about these during Unmoderated Caucus. So now we're going to move on to our third topic, which is how can we involve the larger sports community in addressing this issue. So delegations wishing to speak, please raise your placards. Portugal.
Sport communities play a big factor for young athletes. Many of them mimic their behaviors, including the abuse of drugs. They would look up to professional athletes and youth brands such as Nike, Adidas, and Puma. For example, Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi, they are a sponsor to this. If we would all group of together, we should be able to build a huge community to raise the awareness about the importance of sport values and the prevention of doping.
Thank you, Portugal. Other delegations wishing to speak? Italy?
We have a question for Spain. How do you think the conference held by sportsmen will help? Okay. How do you think that the conference held by sportsmen will help?
So we think that the main problem, like we have discussed, is that the students don't realize like the true problem there is and how deep this problem is. So we think that bringing them closer to people that have had the exact experience they're going to have will help them realize just how big the problem can be.
And besides, what these professionals can do is just motivate the children, the students, to start on their own doing something against doping. And we'd like to introduce the idea of maybe having students all over the classes to get in social media and start talking about the different aspects and different consequences that doping has on inspired, and this conference is given by athletes, so it could prove to have more than one benefit.
Thank you. Other delegations, Norway.
We think that if some big company like Nike collaborated with a big sport athlete like Messi, for example, and they made a movie or something that told about how doping were affecting sports, professional sport athletes, and how it were bad for your health and how it affected is wrong. And then they publish it on social media and spread it all around the world. Then doping would decrease. It's a big aspect.
Thank you, Norway. Other delegations, Italy.
The sport community should give a correct approach to the sport experience during childhood and first adolescence, informing trainers with specialized interventions.
Thank you. Portugal?
So we have a question to the Italian delegation. How do you think we can involve professional athletes in the fight against doping?
We think that if we unite all professional athletes, we can build a huge, stable community.
Thank you, delegates. Unfortunately, our time has elapsed, which means that we're going to move into our unmoderated caucus. This will be time for you guys to mingle, to further discuss ideas, and at the end you should write a resolution for the problem, okay? So we're going to have a 10-minute break for our groups to work, but I ask that the audience be kind of quiet during this session so they can work productively, okay? Resolutions of each of the countries after the different moderated caucuses we had. So at this time we're going to hear from Spain first.
Thank you. We, Spain, think education will solve the problem of doping because, as we all know, not everyone realizes how bad this is. After having discussed this issue with the rest of our colleagues about different topics like media, curriculum or role models, in Spain, we have come to the conclusion that the only way of solving this is tackling doping from a series of several perspectives. The first proposal is making conference by athletes who have experienced doping so everyone gets to know this almost inexistent issue. We want people to know how doping will not only make you win a championship, it will also damage your health. On the other hand, if professional athletes did not dope, they would not only win a championship because of the effort they made, but give an example of what a good sportsman should be. So the main goal of Spain is to change our new generation's mind by education and showing them the reality of doping.
A second idea focuses mainly on using media to our advantage. As we know, media forms right now a big part in our lives, so we have to use it to our advantage to get people to know the consequences of doping. Several countries have discussed the idea of making sites with official and truthful information about all the possible consequences of doping, because as we know today there's a lot of false information on the internet, and we need to separate the truth one from the false one, and with this sites we would get to that verdict. And then we could also tackle the problem of body shaming, and it has been mentioned also throughout the conference. We are influenced a lot by what people think of us and by the body we should have, and the fastest way to get this perfect body is through doping. So with this social support that all students from all the world could have together, we could try to solve this problem and make people realize that it's not the body, the image that you give to this society, but the one that's inside, and that's the one you should work on. So the main idea Spain gives is that action should take part first in the students and the sports community, and then everyone else in the middle can just give help. Italy, Portugal, Czech Republic, Norway and Spain, we all came here with different ideas, but when we go, we'll just have one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Spain. We will now hear from Portugal.
The delegation of Portugal say no to doping in competitive sports. Doping is an unfair use in competitive sports and it causes health risks. We think that the perfect balance of punishment and education can affect the use of doping. The drug testing programs should also continue, with increasing numbers of athletes being tested and higher penalties for detection. Drug education programs must also continue, including the media and the sports communities by building strong communities against doping.
Doping should be only used in medicine under the watch of doctors. As the delegation of Czech Republic said, this substance can cause good as bad consequences. To decrease the use of doping, we agree with Spain that we have to unite, because if we don't fight, who does? Thank you.
Thank you, Portugal. We will now hear from Norway.
We in Norway, we want to focus about teaching children in school about how winning is not the most important thing. We will also want, if we also educated children to how doping is cheating and how it can affect other people around you, and how it's cheating when it comes to sports. And also, if we teach them about the negative perspective biologically, they may not choose it later in life. Also, if we spread the word in social media and and changed the image of the perfect body, and then body shaming would stop, and then fewer and fewer people would get bullied because of the body is not the perfect body. And if the ones that has the perfect body, as we see it today, don't get more compliments than the rest of the people, then the perspective would change faster.
Some overweight and underweight people have been eating unhealthy for so long, they want to have what society calls the perfect body. Since training is a really long process, taking drugs are the fastest and easiest way to achieve the perfect body. They might not understand that drugs are bad for you and that drugs will ruin your body from the inside and out. To replace the bad body image many teenagers face today, we could teach young children to accept the body they have by making them learn the body does not define the person you are on the inside. The way you look says nothing about your personality. So by using school as a platform to stop body shaming is what we think will lessen the numbers of drug users. Thank you.
Thank you, Norway. We will now hear from Italy.
In our opinion, the phenomenon of doping, morally wrong, is a way to win at any cost, giving up at your own dignity and breaking not just the law, but also the ethical at base of sports.
We think that people from a very young age should be educated by families, schools and sports communities to behave in the respect of the principles of honesty, will, courage and perseverance. In this way we will become true human beings. Thank you.
Thank you, Italy. And last but not least is Czech Republic.
First, we would like to thank everyone for their opinions. We as the Czech Republic would like to propose the following measures. We believe that the very first step should be taken at an early age, by which we mean at the age of 14 or 15. Kids at this age are usually already in contact with sports, and at the same time they are already mature enough to understand what doping in sport means.
We want them to be educated not only about steroids, how they work and what they do to your body, but also about principles of fair play. Other things that could help are meetings at schools with someone experienced in doping. We should also use the internet as a source of true information about doping.
Thank you, Czech Republic. At this time, formal debate has ended, and we're going to move into voting procedure. So I'm going to give each group maybe 10 seconds to decide on which resolution they're voting for, and then I will take your vote, okay? We're going to move now into voting procedure. I'm going to call each country and you will stand and tell me which resolution you're voting for, okay? We're going to start with Spain. Portugal. Portugal, how do you vote?
We vote to Spain.
Norway, how do you vote?
Portugal.
Italy, how do you vote?
We vote for Portugal.
And the Czech Republic?
We vote for Spain.
Okay, with 3 votes, Portugal's resolution passes. With that, I want to thank all the delegates for their hard work today. We discussed really important issues, so you should be proud of yourself. So at this point, we're going to conclude the debate, and thank you.